In the month of September, I made my highest amount of dividend income ever, and I'm not going to give away the exact amount that it was yet, but I can say that it was over $500. So to analyze this, we're going to be jumping into my do-it-yourself investor toolkit and looking at a few different metrics that I think are extremely important for all dividend investors to be tracking. So if you'd like to follow along and download the spreadsheet for your own use, then you can head over to my Patreon page at the link in the description. I'd also like to quickly say thank you to Seeking Alpha for sponsoring this video, but more on that later. So let's go ahead and jump into it. I'll come up here and we'll go ahead and zoom a little bit. And you can see my portfolio value now sitting at $112,000, just shy of $113,000. I'm currently up around 6.5% on this portfolio, and just around a month ago, I was actually up around 13%, but the S&P 500 saw a pretty deep dive down in the month of September and went down nearly 4% in only a month. So that is a pretty steep dive for only a 1-month period. But with that, there are opportunities in the market, and I did add an entirely new position to my portfolio this month. If you've been keeping up with the channel, you already know what it was. It was Waste Management, stock ticker WM, currently trading at $152.44. Now this company only has a starting yield sitting at around 1.84%, but I think they have a lot of potential for price and dividend growth long term. So if we jump back over to my do-it-yourself investor toolkit, I'll scroll down and you can see right here my allocation. Now my cash allocation has gone down quite a bit because I did add some capital to my portfolio this month. So now my cash position is only around 11.7% and I have 88% of my capital in the market as of right now. Now if we come down here, you can see my total holdings now sitting at around 32. Again, I'd like to continue to get this number down closer to around 25 long term. So that is something I'm working on. I want to make sure all of my positions align with my long-term goal of being able to live off dividend income. And in order to be able to do that, I believe I need to invest into dividend growth stocks. Now we have two really important charts here. We have my cost and market value chart. This is basically a way to see your cost versus the current market value of all of your positions. Now, obviously you can see SCHD, by far my largest position right here. And if we look at the growth chart, you can see I do have some pretty nice winning positions. I'm currently up around 64% on AVGO, up around 54% on Caterpillar. You can see I have a position in JP Morgan. I'm up around 36 to 37% on. An EPD position, I'm up around 32% on as well. Quite a few other winners here as well. Now I do have a few big losers as well. You can see Verizon, I'm down around 27.45%. 3M down around 26%, and then my biggest loser right here, MPW, I'm currently down around 52%. Now I think I do need to continue to reevaluate all of the positions in my portfolio, and again, make sure they align with my long-term goal of being able to live off dividend income. I don't want to focus on necessarily high yield stocks. I want to focus on companies that have the potential for dividend growth long term. Now if we come up here, we can see my allocation by each individual position, and SCHD, now by far my biggest position, making up around 42.5% of my entire portfolio, but we also have a large position in Microsoft, currently around 9%. It was around 11% as of a month ago, but the price of Microsoft has since dropped, leading it to only making up around 9% of my entire portfolio. Now you can see my new position in Waste Management currently makes up around 3% of my entire portfolio. I have around $3,350 in it. Then a couple of my other larger positions, you can see Texas Instruments currently around 3.7%. We also have MO around 3.2%, and we have Realty Income around 4.2% and Lowe's around 3.2%. Now if we scroll down a little bit further, we can see my stock allocation by industry. And if I blow this up, you can see around 42.5% of my capital is currently in ETFs. And again, that's all SCHD, but we have around 17.8% in technology. We have around 9.7% in financials. Real estate makes up around 8.6%, consumer defensive around 6.7%, and then we have consumer cyclical around 6.5%. Now right here, you can see I have a future portfolio outlook projection. We'll come back and look at this just a little bit later in the video. So let's go ahead and zoom out. So that's my investment dashboard, but now let's go ahead and get to the fun part that everybody wants to see, and that is my dividend dashboard. And you can see right here, I'll go ahead and zoom in just a little bit, but in the month of September, I had my highest amount of dividend income ever at $594.06. This was by far my highest amount of dividend income ever. You can see my previous high was sitting in June at $329.33. The past couple of months have been around 186 and 181. So this was a huge jump up in dividend income. And that was because I received a massive dividend payment from SCHD of over $400. So I'll go ahead and zoom back out just a little bit. We'll come up here and we can see my expected yearly dividend income now sitting over $4,000 a year. So again, that's a pretty big milestone. I was pretty excited to see that. and my average monthly dividend is now sitting at $340 every single month. That's amazing because even if I don't add any capital to my portfolio, that means I'll be reinvesting around $340 back into my portfolio every single month. Now, my portfolio starting dividend yield currently sitting around 3.67, and to be honest, I'd like to see that come down just a little bit. I feel like around the 3% to 3.5% range is pretty healthy long term for dividend growth. Now, if we blow this up, you can see my portfolio value over time, and it has been climbing. Now, really, the reason we saw a climb from the previous month is because I have added capital to my portfolio. But if we come back out, you can see a really important chart right here that a lot of people fail to track, and that is my dividend income by industry. And this is really important to track because you want to know where your dividend income is coming from, because if you have too much exposure from one individual industry, your dividend income could be at risk if something were to happen in that industry. So you can see again, a lot of my dividend income comes from ETFs, 46.9%. That's basically all SCHD. But then we have financials making up around 10.6% of my dividend income, real estate around 12.8%, consumer defensive around 12.2%, and then technology around 9% of my dividend income. If we come down here, we can see my dividend yield on cost. Again, I'm trying to focus more on dividend growth stocks, but then we have my projected annual dividend income chart right here. In the past couple of months, it has really started to take quite a jump up. Just 2 months ago, I was projected to make around $2,928 a year in dividend income. Jump forward to the next month, it's around $3,500, and the next month, it's now sitting at over $4,000 a year in dividend income. And when you consider the fact that I started tracking this portfolio in September of 2022, you can see right here, at the time I was making around $1,345 a year in dividend income. So I'm super happy to see the progress that I've made so far, and definitely tracking your dividend income is extremely motivating long term, which is one of the reasons I love making these style of videos. Now, if we come over here, we can see my dividend income by each individual stock. Again, SCHD, currently my biggest position, and pays me around $1,762 a year in dividend income. But then we have a couple of other big dividend payers as well, such as MO, pays me around $320, Realty Income around $288, we have Vici Properties around $146, JEPI around $138, and Texas Instruments around $136. But other than that, it's fairly well diversified where my dividend income is coming from. And if we scroll down just a little bit further, you can see my new position in waste management is going to be paying me around $61.60 a year in dividend income. And again, I did add some capital to some other positions, but I don't have time to get into it in this video. If you'd like to see what those positions were, then you can sign up for my free newsletter at the link in my description. But I need to go ahead and keep moving forward. Tactic Seeking Alpha just reached out to me the other day to let me know they're going to be running a promotion at my link in the description where you can get a $50 coupon as well as a 7-day free trial. Seeking Alpha is by far my favorite investment research platform. For example, you can see we're looking at Altria Group right here. We can see lots of charts, 5-year, 10-year. We get lots of data immediately, but my favorite thing to do is to dig into the dividend data. They do a phenomenal job showing you things like dividend yield, historical dividend yield, yield on cost. They also show you dividend growth rates. They show you dividend safety, which I think is so important. I personally like to look at the cash flow payout ratio, and they also can show you a company's dividend history. So for example, we can see right away Altria Group has a pretty phenomenal dividend history. We can also easily access all of the financial statements, as well as get insight to their earnings reports. We can easily see some valuation metrics as well as growth metrics. I use Seeking Alpha in nearly all of my videos, so if you're interested, be sure to check them out at my link in the description. Okay, so the next tab we're going to be looking at is a dividend calendar, and if you're not using a dividend calendar to track your dividend income over time, you are really missing out for a couple of different reasons. You can see right here, I can see how much money I've made from each individual position, how much I've made during each month, but most importantly, you're going to be able to see your dividend growth over time. So let's go ahead and look at a quick example. Right here, you can see my position in Realty Income. I've been investing in this company for a long time, and I started tracking this in January of 2022. And because this is a company that increases the amount they pay in dividends over time, and I reinvest my dividends and add new capital, you can see how these dividend payments are growing every single month. It started out around $5.83, but if we jump forward all the way to this month, scroll over, you can see my most recent month was around $22.95 in dividend income. So it's really exciting to see how those dividend payments are continuing to increase every single month. And again, in the month of September, you can see all of my dividend payments right here. I received $7.24 from IBM, Johnson & Johnson around $18.33, $1.72 from KHC, $22 from Microsoft, around $23 from O, $3.35 from SJM, $6.32 from 3M, around $21 from Bank of America, Domino's Pizza, around $10, INTC around $2.35. Scroll down a little bit further and you can see a few more dividend payments. $8 from JEPI, Target around $10, Visa, one of my favorite companies actually right now, paid me around $2.71, $11.35 from T. Rowe, $14 from ABGO, and then my massive dividend payment from SCHD, $417.04. That's by far my largest dividend payment ever. And then we had my new position in waste management, paid me around $12.60. Now, the next thing that I want to look at is my daily dividend calendar, and clearly I need to zoom out a little bit so you can see exactly what's happening. But basically what this does is it shows you exactly what days you were paid dividends and how much you were paid on that day. So for example, here's my 2022 daily dividend calendar. My highest day was around $42.11, and you can see exactly how much I made each day in dividend income. So if we come up here, you can see my 2023 daily dividend calendar. I'll zoom in just a little bit. You can see a decent day on the first at around $8. 7th was a good day at around $26. A couple decent dividend payments in the middle of the month right here. And scroll over here, you can see a $12 payment on the 22nd. Then the 25th was the day I received my SCHD dividend payment of $417. So that's obviously my highest day in dividend income ever. Then another couple decent days on the 28th, and the 29th was a good day too at around $46.46. So I think now more than ever, that dividend snowball is really starting to take off because these dividend payments are growing and I'm reinvesting them back into my portfolio. So that being said, the amount of time it's going to take for me to be able to live off dividends is continuing to decrease. And in fact, let's go ahead and look and see how far away I am. And to analyze this better, I'm going to be looking at my portfolio projection tab. And you can see right here, I plugged in my starting portfolio size as of right now, my price growth rate, and my dividend growth rate. I'm both projecting 7% for around both. Starting dividend yield, I'm estimating will be around 3.5% long term. And I'm currently being very aggressive with my contributions, estimating around $2,500 a month. So if we jump over to my live off dividends analysis, this chart is basically telling me how long it will take for me to be able to live off dividend income. This black line is my cost of living, and keep in mind, this is increasing over time as well due to inflation. So the goal is to get my monthly dividend payments above this black line, and you can see right here, that's exactly what happens. And if we come over here, we can see at what point that happens. So I'll zoom in a little bit, we'll come down, and you can see we want to see this say yes right here because we want my monthly dividends to be higher than my monthly cost of living. So as of right now, I'm clearly still pretty far off from that goal, but let's keep scrolling down and seeing how far I am. We can see around 5 years from now, I could be expecting to be making around $1,137, so I'm definitely still not there at the time. Keep scrolling down. 10 years from now, I'm still not there. 15 years, I'm still not quite there, but look right here. In my 17th year of investing into my dividend portfolio, I'm projected to be able to live off dividends because my monthly dividends surpasses my monthly cost of living. So that's extremely exciting. And at this point, you can see right here, my projected account value is sitting at around $2,074,000. If we want to get a quick glance on exactly what this could look like, we can jump over to my future portfolio outlook. 5 years from now, if I reinvest dividends, I could be making around $12,000 a year. 15 years, $54,000 a year in dividend income, and 30 years from now, I could potentially be making $290,000 a year in dividend income with a portfolio value of around $8.3 million. Now, here's what's interesting. Let's say I don't reinvest dividends over this time period. You can see these numbers change pretty dramatically. In fact, 30 years from now, my dividend income would be less than half of what it could be if I did reinvest my dividends. The same is true for my account value, and that really goes to show the long-term power of compounding. So there you go. There is a quick update on my long-term dividend growth portfolio. Again, if you'd like to be able to download this spreadsheet and join a community of dividend investors, then you can head over to my Patreon page at the link in the description. Again, thank you to Seeking Alpha for sponsoring this video. And again, if you want to see all the positions I added capital to this month, then you can sign up for my free newsletter at the link in the description. So that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.